And this, I think, in the same time.
Ladies and gentlemen, just take a moment to please silence any mobile phones or electronic equipment. That would be great. Welcome, family and friends of Harold George Smith, or Harry, as he was preferred to be called. Harry's daughter Tempest told me during the week, and I'm sure she won't mind me repeating it here, that her father had no acquaintances, only conversations. Hundreds upon hundreds of them. And once a conversation had been engaged, even on your very first meeting with Harry, a friendship was formed, often for life. My name is Dave Chick, and I'm a funeral celebrant and civil celebrant. The Smith family have graced me with the privilege of conducting the funeral service for a man whose spark, verve, and joy of life, while gone, are never far away. I thank you on their behalf for your presence and your support today, and it is clear from the numbers and your presence that the man that you have come to offer honour and to grieve touched many and touched them deeply. The time the Smiths have given me in this, their hardest time, has formed a portrait of a man who knew much, loved much, and for whom life was always before lament. They have left me with a portrait of a boy, a youth, a man, a husband, grandfather, and finally a friend to hundreds, spread across the world, now empty after his death. The family has spoken bravely and openly about the kind of man he was. Today is an anthem of sorrow and joy. Sorrow at the time ahead without him, but joy to reflect on the memories he left us with. Curiously, fiction is mirrored in one of Harry's many sayings, and I'll refer to it later. But I would remind you, as he would often remind his remarkable circle of family and friends, that wisdom comes about in many ways. In his view, we saw age blending what we know with and what we don't, and being grateful that the gap doesn't get any wider. Unless, of course, we choose to stop learning, something Harry refused to do over a long career and a long life. For you, his family, relatives and friends, and for some of you who only knew him, today's wistfulness and reflection can. Harry was more of a philosopher. He was a thinker with a conscience. The family shared to me one of his favourite sayings. He would say that a shared joy is a double joy, while a shared sorrow is only half a sorrow. I think we can reflect on that for just a moment, yeah? Harry was a voracious reader, insisting on tackling contemporary issues in politics, history, literature and society. He was truly a man of the world, and he would have known and shared John Donne's sentiment in his much-loved Meditation 17, written in 1624. No man is an island, entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. The clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. As well as if a promontory were, as well if a manor of thine own, or if thy friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, said not to know, for whom the bell tolls, he tolls for thee. Though originally a piece of prose, it is accepted into poetry that does no harm. Indeed, it elevates us to our imagination. What is universally said is precisely what Harry stood for. The common purpose of humanity: to give, to love, and to share. But it also reminds us of our common fate, that we too must face our own end at some time, just as the bell rings for Harry today. All of our hearts reach out to Harry's immediate family, his children, Tempest, Adrian, Christian and Eric, his grandchildren, Zale, Dylan, Kai and Fletcher. His wider family too are in our thoughts. Harry leaves a brother, Peter, sister-in-law, Mariana, and nephews, Stephen and Damien. Harry has left us to join his beloved wife of 52 years, Marion, who passed 5 years ago. Peter, another member of Harry's family, were unable to travel in time for this ceremony. The generous spirit is richly in our presence. Much will be said about Harry as we move through his celebration. Tempest, Adrian, Christian and Eric will speak of their memories of a hard-working, loving and insatiably curious grandson Dylan, son of Adrian, will celebrate his life through a touching and moving verse and tribute to his adored pup. A little further on we'll pause for a moment, a quiet reflection on this journey of this remarkable man, as we reflect and play for you a video presentation of some of the treasure moments endeared him to them. Tempest of the family have asked me that you will share your memories of Harry immediately after this celebration over refreshments at the reception centre here by the Reflection Lake. The details can be found in your order of service. We use the word celebration in all its riches. Properly, it signifies a public ritual, the marking of a significant event that is important to individual and community life. And so this day is such an event, the passing of a man who managed to bring out the gifts and qualities of so many individuals through his sheer goodwill. Through Harry's career as a diplomat, were very widely travelled. Indeed, the family joke was shared annually that as Harry's birthday approached, he said, "Forget the socks and ties. What I really need is a new passport." From his birth on December the 11th in 1941 in Malvern to his death in Mornington on February 28th, 21, Harry's life revolved around observation, learning, and connecting with people and reconnecting them to each other. Harry was born to professional parents. His father Reuben was a doctor, his mother Ella a language teacher, and by the time he attended school, Harry was already literate and fluent in English and in French. Reuben's sense of the world as a big estate led to postgraduate studies in Edinburgh and London in the early and mid-30s. The worldview would have important consequences later on in life. Harry was a prodigious reader, and made it a point to select material above his age. Wherever possible, he read in English and French, and though a capable student in sciences, he regularly topped the humanities academic lists, reveling in history, literature, languages, and economics. His mother's aptitude for languages and father's worldliness, he would nonetheless choose his own course. Harry's talented father built a steady practice in orthopedic surgery, when it came a growing reputation for his devotion to the preservation of human life, regardless of politics, nationality, or belief. Growing up a young Harry pursued his studies as best he could. Some of it was self-taught and through his parents' extensive library and his mother's grieving determination to honour her family's tradition of higher learning through her children's education. After high school and nighttime university classes, he seized the chance to work as a translator with the exchange students in the university. His language skills and grasp of history and economics soon attracted attention. He used the years to study university part-time, gaining degrees in languages and economics. He continued to work as a translator, brought him into contact with a wide variety of many different consular staff members. A twinkling personality and a talent to hear all sides of the story granted him access to wider roles of most his age. He took up his first foreign posting, ironically, in London, where his father studied in the early 1930s. It was there that his true value as a diplomat and linguist was recognised. It would lead him to a series of further postings around the world. It was also in London that the two great loves of his life were formed. The first was instant, powerful and enduring. The beautiful Marion, who just happened to be an Australian and a nurse by profession, but was now a medical administrator in the British hospital system. They met, of all places, at a cricket match, where Harry had been reluctantly dragged by a colleague. Recalling his own father's description of his cricket experience, I've had more enjoyment watching concrete set. He was determined not to be impressed by anything so dull as a game that could take 5 days and still fail to achieve the result. All that changed the moment when the colleague introduced Harry to Marion. As Harry would say from then on, she might have been the maiden, but I was the one that was bowled over. Her passion for cricket quickly became his. He used to claim in jest that only the Germans could have invented a game so serious an enterprise as cricket, and only the English could have made it such a joke. But it was the Australians that could have restored the balance. After they finally settled in Australia in the 70s, Harry rarely missed a day or two at the Boxing Day Test. He took pleasure in his membership at the Melbourne Cricket Club. Marion urged him to apply soon after they met in England, and was delighted that Harry took full membership after the customary lengthy wait. I'm told lunch in the members' committee room with Harry was a raconteur's delight. Harry's talent for meeting and befriending people, surely the beating heart of diplomacy, at which he was an accomplished practitioner, was rewarded. Some of the family say punished, with postings to many countries. Among them, in no order of merit, were the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, twice, leading to eventual retirement here, India, New Zealand, Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe. And if you think there seems to be something of a Commonwealth thread running through these postings, you're right. Family tell me that his refined English skills and his enthusiasm to meet people at all levels was the critical factor. This was especially so for India and Sri Lanka, where his interest in underdeveloped nations and their people took him to places and situations well beyond the call of duty. That those places and situations often involved him playing, umpiring, or simply attending a cricket match was, he would say, rank coincidence. His view was that cricket was itself an elegant diplomacy. It naturally contained all the elements of the career he so loved. To his fellow human and humility in victory and courage and humour in defeat. As his career matured, so his family grew. Deeply affected by the turbulence of his own upbringing, he was determined that he would give his family as settled a life as his nomadic job allowed. When the 4 children were still under 10, he was able to relocate with Marion to Australia, to Canberra, and later to the consular service in Melbourne, where the children were educated successfully. Only when the youngest had finished senior school did he consent to further postings, with regular return trips to Melbourne and visits for the children to his posts wherever possible. With Marion's medical administration background and Harry's growing concern for third world development, they became a formidable pair. Harry would, in the course of his diplomatic duties, take an energetic interest in education and healthcare projects. Marion, with feigned wariness, would be cajoled into medical or administrative service. Before you could say Harry Smith, their circle of friends would expand by another dozen. Always attentive to family needs, though occasionally troubled by prolonged absences abroad, Harry decided to take early retirement and return to Melbourne in 2000. Retirement, the family tells me, was something of a joke. It simply gave Harry more time to meet more people, find more friends, and adopt more causes. For more than 20 years, he gave large amounts of his spare time to helping those less fortunate than himself. Among his particular passions was using his language skills to help asylum seekers and refugees integrate into Australian society. It was a labour he would continue even in retirement right up to his. I would now like to call upon Tempest to share some memories of her father. And now, Adrian, would you like to come forward? And Christian would also like to share some impressions of his father. And Eric, could you step forward and share some memories as well? And Dylan will recite his favourite poet for his pop. Thank you for the members of the Smith family. How hard it is to deliver the words of reflection, comfort and hope when your heart is aching with loss. We've heard about the life of Harry, the husband, father, companion, friend, source of inspiration and hope. But what about the man? What were the qualities that so distinguished him from all others? For the family, his hopes and his values were simple: love, loyalty and compassion. Love of humanity came first. He learned it from the experience of losing his father in circumstances that showed that even the greatest adversity could not overrule the sanctity of human life. Loyalty ran parallel to love, and in many ways overlapped it. He said that loyalty helped define our human boundaries and their magnificent dimensions of family and friendship. With it came an intellectual component too, and that was the importance of loyalty to self and to truth. Lose your loyalty to those and you lost your humanity, he believed. Compassion was a great force that grew within him, and as he matured and aged. He was not a religious man, but his feeling and sorrow for anyone undergoing disadvantage of any sort was in a sense his own religion. And not an intellectual faith, but an active, living, breathing, and especially a doing faith. To these things should be added courage. Dying and death can be a fearful issue for many of us. The heart attack that took him from us occurred while he was exploring another recreational love, deep-sea fishing. This was something that Harry took up with his good mate Franco not long after his beloved Marion passed. It was something he took to with great gusto from all accounts. His fearlessness in getting out amongst the waves, wrestling the monsters of the deep, won him numerous awards. And surprise, surprise, he added a number of friends to his list of contacts. His family, however, were a bit sceptical of his safety of his newfound activity. Harry would not be swayed, however. He once told his son Eric, "The boat in the open water is safer than walking down the street. On a boat, I don't have to worried about knocked over by those damn cyclists." Not long before he died, he quoted Caesar from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. "Cowards die many times before their death. The valiant never taste the death once." This line, uttered by a great Englishman who was admired by a great Aussie, tells us all something. Tells us that we who remain can continue to learn from those who have gone ahead. As Harry continued learning and teaching throughout his life, so can we too. We can learn from his life and we can learn from his death. Pass on the lessons we share today to those who follow us. I'm going to invite Harry's good friend Franco to the microphone and share with us a poem by Henry Scott. Franco and Harry became best mates in his later years while they were out on the boat deep sea fishing. Well, Harry, you lived a long life and a very full one. I've only slipped into the next one. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the
easy way you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh, as we always laugh, at the world together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it ever was. Let it be spoken without effect, without a trace of shadow of it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind? Because I am out of sight. I am waiting for you for an interview, somewhere very near. Just remember. Always looking.
Thank you, Franco. I now ask you to pause just for a quiet reflection as the Smith family reveal to us some of their fondest memories of Harry. The music to accompany this presentation is from Stevie Wonder. It's Reflections of You. Harry was particularly fond of this unreleased song. He loved the lyrics and the melody, but it was the raw, live, unfinished quality of the song that really appealed to him. Family and friends of Harry Smith, please stand as we approach the end of this moving farewell. I accept you guys there, you're standing in front of the video. You've gathered here today in mourning, in grief and in loss. We've had the opportunity to share moments of Harry's life, the gifts that he brought his family, and the extraordinary circle of friends, the richness of his talents for people, connections of language, his love and learning and sharing. Now's the time to farewell his earthly body and commit to it, committed to nature in all its cycles. Let us remember Harry's own words again, that a shared joy is a double joy, while a shared sorrow is only half a sorrow. As we farewell this man, the world from the world, a man of the world from the world, scholar, diplomat, humanist, let us recall his gifts, his joy, his sparkling personality, and his enthusiasm. Let us also take with us championing of the underprivileged. We should take comfort in knowing that thousands today, mostly unaware of his life and death, they live better lives because he cared. If we were to use a cricket analogy, Harry was the consummate team player. He may not have opened the batting, taken the hat-trick, or scored the big century, but he could be relied on to read the play, to hold up an end, to stem the runs, to patrol the boundary all day with energy and determination. Your captain has declared and called you in from the field. Your labour over. Those who knew and loved you are better for having seen you play. Thanks, Harry. I'm sorry, people, that was full on.
No.
Grab a drink.
Is it off? Yes. You need alcohol!
Well done, Dave. Beautiful. So good.
Alcohol.
Oh, it's heavy.
What made we get you?
Oh, no,
You,
I'll
no,
get-
you did really well. That was amazing. That was a hell of a long one.
That was a pretend person.
But now you know this person. You had to, or else you couldn't have done what you did.
That was a long eulogy, mate.
Huh?
That was a long eulogy.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the shit that they said, the
Well, you were
the
the
stuff that you've got to
and
get
the
through.
master of ceremony.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, we have done eulogies the last 12 months. We've
Yeah.
buried several people. So.
Watch your back, guys. Get into these.
Some little mini burger.
I haven't dressed that coleslaw.
I did.
Thank you.
But the rolls are a bit there.
Are you done? Is that it or is it one more?
There's one more.
Yep.
One more.